quick bit of introduction. Some of you know me very well, some of you don't know me at all. So I'm Helen Pethy-Bridge. I bring you two very different experiences into which are going to be used through the webinar. Firstly, my corporate career had nearly 25 years in international multinationals as an HR director type roles. So with people like Diageo, GE Capital, PepsiCo, so huge numbers of people, multicultural, multifunctional, huge breadth of experience there. And then in the last 6 years, I have been running my own business with the Action Coach franchise, really focusing more on the SMEs. So I've got a sort of blend of SME and large corporate, and I know we've got in our audience today, we've got some HR leaders from corporate and we've got some SME leaders as well. And so what I'm going to bring to you is a meld of that. And I think there's learning from SMEs into corporate and corporate into SMEs. So really looking forward to getting all your contributions as well as we bring that together. But what I have learnt in both those scenarios, whether it was the corporate or the SME, is that the most critical thing in a business for growth and sustained growth is having the right people on board. And I know from my clients, corporate and SME at the moment, one of the biggest challenges is actually finding the right people, attracting them. It's incredibly competitive for staff at the moment. And therefore, it felt to me that actually the easiest thing to do at the moment is to retain them and spend our energies on retention, and therefore prevent the need for quite so much recruitment. And hence our topic today. So I want to share with you my best insights in terms of retaining your team. So without further ado, as I was just saying, focus on retention, because in my view, it's easier than recruitment at the moment. Recruitment is expensive. If you pay recruitment fees or, heaven forbid, search fees, that can be quite a sum of money to pay to get the support for the recruitment. It's also expensive in terms of the loss of opportunity when you have a gap, which is invariably happening at the moment between somebody going and somebody arriving. You've also got that ramp up time when the new person is not fully effective as they learn the role. So all in all, it's disruptive, it's expensive, and at the moment, it's even slower than it might normally be. But let's just see, am I talking to the converted here? Who just pop in your in the chat box. Let's just see how many of you are experiencing at the moment this current challenge with recruitment. How many of you is this a real pain point for at the moment? Just put yes or me or something like that in the chat box. Great, I can see some answers coming in. In fact, Simon, can you do your lovely role as my loudspeaker for the chat box?
We've got yes, 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 huge issue, yes in capital letters. And the yeses came in thick and fast. It feels like it's definitely something everybody's experiencing.
We've hit a need here. Fantastic.
I've also got here, finding the right person is the first big challenge.
Yes, and thank you for that, because there is 2 steps to recruitment. I think, well, there's a lot more, but in summary, you've got to find the right person, and then they have to accept. Those 2 things have to happen before you can declare victory. So yes, if you can't even find them, then we don't even have to worry about issue number 2. So what we're going to do is start to think about what is happening, because if we're recruiting, it's because there's somebody, well, there's 2 reasons why I recruit. Somebody left, or there's growth and we need more people. Or maybe there was downsizing in the pandemic and now we're ready to go back up again. But for those of you who might be experiencing recruitment as we go forward in recruitment in terms of backfilling recruitment, that's particularly where the retention I see as an investment. It's investing in the skill and knowledge growth of our existing team. It's investing in having that continuity, which is good for our team, it's good for our customers, and it means we've got a really effective team because they know what they're doing. But let's find out why people are. Let's unpick this from what is happening, and then we can better think about how to retain if we know why they're leaving. So you might have seen in a note beforehand, it said bring your phone, which is quite an unusual thing to do on a webinar. Usually it's phones off, out of sight. Well, I want you to pick your phone up because we're going to have a play with Menti. So let me just show you here. Where's my voting link? Is this the voting instructions? Yeah, here we go. So you can either show your phone camera the QR code, or pick up your phone and take yourself on your browser to www.menti.com and put in that. It'll just come up on the screen, and then it will ask you, as it shows here, ask you to put in this code. So if you get yourselves onto Menti and then pop in the chat box, ready, I'll know we've got there. So I'll let you get sorted. So use the QR code or go via the browser.
Got a couple, readies are coming in.
Readies are coming in, great.
Readies are coming in. Okay.
So, oh, you've already found my question too, brilliant. What I'm interested in is what are your employees who are leaving saying? What are they saying they're leaving for? Excellent. So more answers are more money, 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 money. 4 monies there. 2 stressfuls, that's interesting. 2 lots of 2 stressfuls. Wanting more hours, not wanting to go through performance process. That sounds like that might have been a blessing in disguise. Excellent, more money, money. Let's get these moving. Stress.
The performance piece, Helen, is an interesting one because I don't think you always want to do a performance process to lose people. It is to get them back on track. But I would say yes, in today's market, you even talk about how do you develop performance, and people are kind of, there's so many opportunities out there, they're almost lose faith in the business, lose faith in the process, and want to leave straight away. So I think that's a different challenge.
It is a different challenge, and thank you for raising that. Yes, and what I'm hearing is also for one of the, I'm sure that's one of the reasons why is leaders feeling they have to manage with kid gloves very delicately, because slightest provocation, and you're right, people are hopping because that's easier to do. So yes, there's a lot of money here, lots of money, better job, more money, lots of things happening here. So thank you so much for your contributions there. Now, in my experience, these are the kind of things, I think we'll just check this off. I think you covered most of these kind of things. Actually, we didn't have anything about convenience or relocating. That can sometimes be why people say they're leaving as well. But what I have found is actually what people say why they're leaving is not always actually why they're leaving. I don't know if anybody else has had that experience, or even if you've taken the time to dig into why people are actually leaving. But some of the reasons people start looking, and I think this is a really interesting point, the reason why they leave, more money, something's triggered them to look and realize they could get more money often, or what we get is there's an initial trigger that then causes them to look at the job boards, causes them to pick up the phone from the headhunter. And then once they've done that, it's like kind of being, especially at the moment, it's like being in a sweetie shop. You've got, you know, like all these opportunities, boom, boom, boom. And then there's a reason, because now that's a more exciting job, or it's a more money, etc. But there was probably a push factor as well as the pull of the salary. And often the one that is the real reason but is not said is issues with the manager. Don't really like them, don't respect them, or indeed broader management don't have their respect. I'm sure many of you have heard the phrase, people join a business and leave the manager. Maybe they don't like the culture anymore. The culture's changed, developed, either because the business pivoted or because there's different, I think a lot of places have found it feels different post-pandemic, either if people are back in the office, some of them back, whatever the arrangement is. Workload, that came up a couple of times. I think that's a genuine reason why people are leaving. And I think at the moment, if they feel put upon at all, again, there's so many other opportunities, they don't need to work it out. Not liking the work, not feeling valued, not feeling listened to, bored in their role, not feeling the development and growth. And sometimes it is a sense of the grass is greener elsewhere. Not that got issues here and they're hoping it's going to be better somewhere else. I don't know if any of you have had the experience of rehiring people back again when they found actually the grass wasn't much greener where they were and they'd rather be back with you, and a few years later. Some companies have very strong policies not to do that. I have to say I'm more of the mind that actually if they're a great fit, why wouldn't you? Now they've tried outside the grass, they know the grass isn't greener there, they're far more likely to stay a second time. So I do urge you to look at what is the real reason that people are starting to look, because the action of starting to look is often a different reason than what actually is the one that pulls them to that particular job when they do hand in their resignation. But what we do know is at the point they start to look, somehow we have got to a point where there is an imbalance in what I would call the psychological contract. So let's spend a few minutes. I know some of the HR people will be very familiar with this. Some of our SME attendees, this might be a bit of HR gobbledygook speak. So what do we mean by the psychological contract? This is fundamentally, it's the unwritten expectations that an employee has of an employer and an employer has of the employee. So it's this sense, our expectations, our belief of what it's going to be like, how we should be behaving, how others should be behaving, ambitions, etc. And those need to be in balance, as well as the pay and benefits happening as the employment contract would say. So the employment contract is your written down legal document. The psychological contract is never written down. It might be discussed, although not under that banner typically, in terms of expectations, reasons why people are looking to move, or give an idea of their expectations. But it's very much sort of under the radar, and you need to be aware of that and find out, how what somebody's expectations might be, and actually more positively position that. But so this psychological contract needs to be in balance. So we need to be aware of what is the employee expecting of their experience with us as an employee. Now, yes, of course, they're going to expect the salary and benefits that is in their employment contract. That's a given. Most employers are now going to expect some development and learning. They want to come to you and, ultimately gain skills, experience, learning that they can then add into their sort of career kit bag to take on elsewhere or take on into other roles within your business. They're looking to progress from where they were. It always frustrates, I was going to say amuses, no, that's not right. It frustrates me when hiring managers are, have got their wish list of all the skills, experience, qualifications that their new prospective employee is going to have, and then they go out onto the market looking at people and they want all of this. And my question there is, why would somebody want to join you and do this job if they've already got every single element that's required? Because there's no progression for them in that at all. They're just doing exactly what they've done, or a cumulative impact of what they've done in a different organization. That's unlikely to attract many people. So they're looking for progression. But there's other things people get from work, that sense of community, that friendship with your colleagues. That's some of the things that have been a bit challenged whilst everybody was away at lockdown. And I think a lot of organisations are working hard at how to bring that back, even when people are in the office, but also, of course, when they're in their hybrid working from home. But that community and friendship for different people is going to be at a higher level of importance or not. People want that sense of accomplishment. They want that sense of having achieved something, done something worthwhile, particularly if it's a very meaningful organisation, more vocational type. And if they're not achieving, they're not feeling good, just having the pay packet isn't enough. They want to feel valued, they want to feel noticed, that actually people are recognising the work they've done, rather than being treated as a machine just churning out stuff. And a lot of people want fairness. And I'm sure there's other things. What have I missed on my list here? What else do you find that employees expect from you? That is, you know, an assumption. It's not written down as part of the formal contract, but it's something they're expecting from the whole work experience with you. Do jot it in if we've got anything extra. Have we got anything coming through, Simon?
Yeah, we have respect that's come through so far.
That's a good one. Yes, feeling respected.
Appreciation.
Yep.
Good one. Commitment to health and well-being. I feel like that's probably a pretty new one. Commitment to health and well-being.
Yes. Absolutely. We'll touch on some of that in a second.
Cool.
Good. So that's what employees expect, but it's a balance and it's assumptions on both sides. So they expect that in return for, and this is sort of what as an employer you might well want as part of this psychological contract. Now obviously you want the role performed capably. Often we might want them to travel a bit for work, within the country, beyond the country, go to a few exceptional events that might be out of hours, etc. We're probably looking for a bit of discretionary effort. I say effort. Effort doesn't need to be hours. It might be, you know, headspace. Having people who are kind of thinking around the corners, those people who have those aha moments in the shower and go, oh, should be doing this at work. Great idea. We want people to go a bit beyond their comfort zone. That takes a bit of extra effort. We want people who are reliable, bringing a positive attitude, sharing their skills and experience with their colleagues, with the business, solving those problems. Again, jump in with the chat box if you've got anything else you'd like in return for everything that the employees expect. And what we're looking for is these two. At the outset, when you hire someone, there's an assumption that these are balanced, but it isn't actually tested out yet because they haven't actually experienced working with you and you haven't experienced what you're getting. But as you start off on that employment relationship, we're expecting that they're in balance. And when somebody comes to look elsewhere, I think we can be pretty sure they've got out of balance somehow. And so we need to know what has changed. And why has that changed? And was that a deliberate change, or has that just unwittingly changed? Some things are, you know, might have changed in terms of where an employee needs their family circumstances, where they need to be located. They, you know, got a different life situation, which means they need a different earning potential. So sometimes there is something very practical and definitive that's happened in the life. It might be that something very different has happened to the business. You've relocated, you're doing things differently. But I've also come across quite a few where these are unconsciously have fallen away. People haven't been recognized. It wasn't that they weren't doing great work. It wasn't that the organization thought they weren't still great. They just stopped saying so. Development just hadn't happened, or maybe it had, but they hadn't realized it happened. I went through, funny story, I actually joined Grand Met back in the day before it merged with Guinness to become Diageo. And so I went through and was part of the HR team that merged the two biggest spirit businesses in the UK. And it was a good year-long project to do that. And at the end of the year, I had a line manager come up to me at the end of the day and went, Helen, I'm really disappointed in HR. We've had no development. What's happened to development during this year? I went, really? I have had more development than I would ever wish to have in another single year. I've learned so much. I have dealt with so many different situations I haven't dealt with before. Are you really telling me you haven't covered anything new, different, learned from this year? But they just hadn't seen it as development. But they've got a massive new skill set in their kit bag for their career. So sometimes we just need to point these things out. So always think about, are you still delivering these things, and are we still communicating these things? And we're going to have a look at that as we go forward. So starting with, and we can start to see how some of these fit in. I love Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's pretty much as old as the hills, a key foundational part of sort of employment psychology and human psychology. So those who are new to it, we have this order of things that support us as human beings, not even employees or managers, just as human beings, to feel satisfied, happy and fulfilled. It starts at the bottom with what we call these physiological needs, the real practicalities of life: food, water, shelter, sleep, health. We need these physiological needs before we can do anything else. Then we progress up to then the need to feel safe. This is, back in the days when we were cavemen, we needed to know we had our defenses from the good old saber-toothed tigers or whoever was out there. But people need to feel safe. That needs to happen before we can then start to think about and appreciate these higher level needs, the psychological needs we move into then, of feeling you belong to somewhere, feeling that you are cared for, loved, and those feelings of belongingness. And then we get up to these feelings of accomplishment, and ultimately at the top of the triangle here, this sense of having one's destiny in one's own hands, achieving your full potential. There's no good that we can't fulfill these needs if we're wondering where the next meal's coming from, or we're not feeling safe. So these are progressive, and I think we can look at the essentials, as I'm calling them, to retention in this same way. Pay and benefits. We had more money being a factor in, I don't know, about a third of those comments, probably right up front. That's what they're saying. There's a watch out to that, but we do have to be paying at the competitive level. We don't have to be leading edge on the salaries, but we have to be paying within that band of everyone else. Otherwise, people have the need for a certain amount of money to live on, and if we're falling below that, we're not going to attract people, and we can't play in the spaces up above. So we're going to look through these 7 different factors, which, as you say, I think I'm mapping. We'll look at them in the order as we go up Maslow's hierarchy. Those of you who are familiar with the Gallup 12 questions of employee engagement, I think there's also a good correlation with those as well for some of these areas. So let's look at this sticky topic of salary. And I know salaries have increased massively. Who's done an abnormally high salary increase this year? Be interested. I know a lot of my clients have done extra salaries, or they've gone higher, or they've had to. Particular vulnerable people vulnerable to being lost have had additional salaries. But what I'm curious to see here is, do you see salary as being a factor that is attractive and you can pull people in with salary? Or is it a factor that actually you can only get wrong? Neutral to wrong, or is it something that you can really leverage to bring people in at? So very quick question, this on your mentee, back on your mentee. Yes, it's sorry, what have I got the question that is? Yes, it's an attractor, or no, it's a detractor. Let's go that way. So yes for attractor, or no, it's a detractor. So vote now. Is it an attractor or a detractor? Yes for attractor, no for detractor. Okay, I've got 24 of you on the call and I've got 6 voters. Grab those phones. Let's have higher participation, please. You get out what you put in on these things. Yeah, great. I'm loving to see some difference of opinion here. Keep them coming. Still only got 9 of you voted. Yes, it's an attractor. No, it's a detractor. Few more, come on. Only half of you. Right. Interesting. 92% of you, I would like a few more, are saying it is an attractor, and 8% are saying a detractor. Now, I personally would go, I don't know, there is a right or wrong answer. In my experience, I would say I would go with the no's. I think salary is a hygiene factor, if you like. It's something that has to be within the right realm. But on salary alone, I don't think you will attract and keep someone just for the salary. There is, I don't know if I've seen research purely on salary, I might have done actually, but certainly from a point of view of buying, and we're buying a job when we're choosing a job, price, salary is only 10% of the decision. I think it's the easiest one. It's the easiest one for people to say why they're leaving. It's a cop out, basically. Why are you leaving? And more money? Yes, you are getting more money, but is that really the reason you're going? Are people really taking the highest bid that they get when they're looking for the next role, or are there lots of other factors that are taken into account? So I think there's a little watch out for us in terms of the competitive level has definitely gone up, but I think salary can be a bit of a red herring in terms of the actual importance and really going above. You might get them, but do we want people who are only coming for the money? I'm not sure. So salary, we are sort of in the balance there. Is this good or bad? You know, is it helpful or not? How far up do you have to go? I say it definitely needs to be competitive, and I think unless you've been moving it up at an accelerated rate, the risk is you are going to slip below being competitive. And for retaining people, so that's the big issue. People leave, they think they have to leave to get the salary increase, and then what happens? You pay more, or you feel you have to pay more, or you can't hire because you don't want to pay more because the people in-house who you've already got are then going to be paid less. So, and I know there's commercial decisions to be made, but at the moment the cost of having a vacancy and not delivering for, or being limited by how many clients you can support because you can't fill your vacancy, versus putting the salaries up, filling the vacancy quickly and getting on with growing your business, you know, we need to look at these decisions very holistically. But there are also other benefits that really support these physiological, I should have said, their needs at the bottom of the Maslow hierarchy. Pension, it depends on the age profile. I haven't yet met many young people who are keen about their pension, but more mature people, that's definitely an attraction. Back to somebody said healthcare. I think this could be a bit of a little bit of a secret weapon here. If we can extend, and there's some different covers that are available or different resources that people can get to feel a bit more cover and support from their health situation. So I think that's definitely one to look at. Holiday entitlement. So the minimum is 20 days. a year plus your 8 bank holiday days. I know a lot of corporates offer more, a lot of SMEs stick at the 20 days. Is there a way that people are really valuing? I think after the last couple of years, people are really valuing their time at home, their time for themselves to do as they choose. That's probably come up in the rankings of what's important to people. Can you offer a bit more holiday without then having to put the salaries up much above? You know, you have to be competitive, but without having to go overboard there. Employee assistance programs, really supporting the mental health of our teams when there's different schemes provide different things, but they pretty much all provide a level of phone counselling. Some provide a level of in-person counselling. There could be some legal advice, which can just give people some answers before stress has built up. Things like parking. If you're in a town centre, parking is a massive attraction if you have that ability to offer people, or you can contribute to the cost of that. Have you got some discount schemes? These are generic ones that you can buy into, things like perk boxes, many others out there, or indeed other discounts because of the business that you are, that you can offer your employees. So there's lots of other benefits that can support. Simon, do jump in there. Have you got a question?
Just got a couple of interesting comments actually, Helen. One is that says the market is strife. One we lost was offered 30k higher. Yeah, and then another comment was, over a period of time, I have noticed people's priorities change. Gone are the good old days when we would consider the wider picture. Nowadays, more and more people are using a salary as a key differentiator. And also, there's a good idea here, someone's paying a fuel top up. I once refused to attend it. I once refused to attend an interview as there was no parking facility available in the facility. So just a few comments coming through. Yeah, parking is that convenience factor. Interesting on the salaries. I mean, I'm presuming that they weren't underpaid by 30k in the first place, and there was but if you've got a bit of underpaying going on and then somebody goes over it, that is an astounding increase. I would still dig into, I've retained people through conversations around, okay, let's look at the whole, how's this benefiting, how's it fitting your career path, where do you want to, and then they realize salary is such a quick fix, but it's such an easy thing to jump to without necessarily thinking about the full breadth of what a career move is really going to do for someone. But yeah, if you're in a highly sought after area, then we're going to have to look creatively about how salaries can be afforded, but maybe not even at that level of jump. I would look at some other things that one of the points, my last point on this slide, is actually how can we start to make some of these sticky, what I call make the benefits sticky, to attract people to stay. So is there, I know a number of organizations have more holiday the longer tenure you have. So if you get an extra day per year of service after 5 years, you've now got 25 days, not 20 days, you've got a full week. You don't want to lose that. If you're in corporate world, you probably need to go from 25 up to 30, 31, something like that, for that to be attractive, because the expectations are different. Could we get creative with the parking? Longer service, you get the 3 spots, you're on the rotation for the few spots you've got if you're limited on parking. Or just see how you could get creative to link, if we can, some benefits to tenure. You will have to be just a little bit careful, check we're not entering any indirect discrimination in that certain gender works longer or anything, or just be careful for that. Who knows where that pops in nowadays. But let's get a little bit creative. So the other key thing that I think people will all have experienced here is flexibility. The requirement, the demand for flexibility now is so much higher than it was 2-3 years ago. But I'm always keen to remember flexibility is a two-way street. So absolutely, the employees are wanting flexibility, but actually, if we're giving flexibility, I'd also expect some flexibility back.
So have a think, how can you offer make sure, and I'm sure a lot of you have been doing work on this, when can you be flexible on when people are working, the times? Is this offering more part-time work? I've talked to one client who actually, the desire from the young, their workers are 18 to 23 type age range, all wanting a 3-day week. I was like, whoa, that was completely new to me. Part-timers tend to be for caring responsibilities. No, this is just, they'd worked out, it was lower paid roles, that they were never going to be able to get themselves on the housing ladder. Therefore, they were going to be at home. They're not paying rent. They don't have a need for a lot of salary. So they're prioritizing their time available to do their things above earning more from working 2 extra days. Some very different thinking to what I'd have experienced 5-10 years ago. So are you flexible in the hours of work, where they're working, in the office, at home, in a third, serviced option, or temporary working, or different places to work? Is this flexibility, is it regular? Is this a contractual thing you're getting into, that we're always going to be doing this? Or is it more ad hoc? Actually, when you need to, you can do this. And when we need you to be a bit different, also that will work. So that we could have that kind of more flexible ad hoc as well. Are we giving them any choice on those pay and benefits? Do people want to trade in what they would have been getting in a benefit that isn't relevant to them and get more salary? Or do they want to trade off salary and get some childcare voucher salary sacrifice? Are we giving people the chance to choose? This personalization that is kind of stormed through all the consumer side, it is absolutely on the employee side as well. So how is that personalization? What options have you got to personalize that work experience in your organization? Because it's absolutely becoming my work, my way, is very much more what people are looking for. So catch up with my notes here. The third of my essentials in retaining is communication, and I actually almost think it's the most important, but if I go through my Maslow needs, pay is definitely in that base level. I think communication, we're definitely into the middle of the triangle. So what do we need to communicate out? Well, people more than ever are keen to understand and relate to and sort of get as one with the purpose and the values of the organization they're working for. That is really important for people, particularly the younger generations, the Gen Ys and Zs. What is this all about? Where are we going? What are we doing it? Why are we doing it? And how should we be doing it? Those values. And it's not just about having them on the wall. For one, half the employees won't be seeing the wall in the office because they're not going in anymore. So it's actually got to live. It's got to be a felt experience. It's got to ooze throughout their employee experience with you. They also need to know what's the plan. You need to be sharing with them, what is the plan for this year? What are the key strategies that you're going to be following to achieve your purpose? And break this down quarterly, what needs to be achieved, because a year feels like quite a long time at the beginning of the year. And, who knew it? We're halfway through already. So we need to be sharing what those plans are. You need to be giving business updates. Otherwise, you can end up with your employees kind of operating in a little bubble. They don't actually really know what's going on. How many of you have shared your revenue progress versus target? Do your team know if you're really succeeding, or if there's a few issues because they can't respond and help you out if they don't know about it? Now, I'm not saying we're going to share the profit line, but I would think you could share revenue. You should certainly be able to share percentage towards, we're at 100% of target, or 80 or 50. There's ways of safely, if we're sensitive about that information, absolutely, if you've got shareholders, it's very sensitive information. But there are ways of sharing so people have an idea about how the business is performing. We want to share and celebrate milestones, project milestones, the launch of something, the implementation of something, anniversaries. Maybe the business was 10 years old, 5 years old, 20 years old. Maybe as an employee, they were just celebrated their 5th anniversary, their 1st anniversary. Think of things to celebrate. When there are a few clients on this webinar, when they've been to our 90-day planning, and every time we go, how have you celebrated your wins? And every time there's a bit of a silence, because people are so busy going on to the next thing, we forget to celebrate. But that's really important. It's that sense of accomplishment that people will then have before we move on to the next thing. So you can be thinking a bit about, are you doing all of these things? Are you communicating all of these things? How often do you communicate? How are you communicating? You know, small organizations, this can be very easily done. Even big organizations, this can be done in huddles, cascaded huddles, face-to-face, Zoom to Zoom, live Zoom. Let's not go down the recorded Zoom route. How can we make this as interactive and involving as possible for our team? But communication is 2 ways. How well are you listening? Because employees, if they're going to stay with you, they want to feel they've got a voice and they want to feel they're being listened to. So do you ask them for feedback? Employee satisfaction surveys, employee engagement surveys, feedback through 360 feedbacks for managers, etc. Do they give that kind of feedback? Are you getting their feedback on customer insights? What are the customers saying? Because it's usually the team who are closest to the customers in their day-to-day interactions. Are you getting that insight and then using that to inform the business? Again, the team are the ones who are following the processes, implementing things. They're the ones typically who will see those great opportunities for improvement. Are we asking them for ideas? Are they feeling they can give value and that their opinion is valued? Are we listening out for those employees' wins when they've got their first client signed, they've got their first implementation completed, first customer through the new system, whatever it might be? Look for those opportunities to celebrate their wins. So making sure, just have a think about your communication. Is it outward and inward? Are we listening as well as we're speaking? In fact, we've got 2 ears and 1 mouth. Are we using them in that proportion as an organization? And obviously, when we've listened and heard stuff, we can then feed that in to share to the wider organization. So it does become a virtuous circle. So are we recognizing, are we spotting those opportunities, catching team members doing great things? To do this well, it's not difficult. There's a few things we need to get right. It needs to be specific. We need to really help people know what it is that they've done so well. It needs to be timely in terms of soon after they've done it. You know, celebrating something 6 months later has lost a bit of its pizzazz. And it needs to be personal. Things that have the biggest impact for people are ways of thanking, ways of celebrating that work for that individual. The DISC preference profiling is a fantastic way of understanding what's going to work best for different people. Do they like things big in front of everybody, hurrah, or do they prefer it much more one-to-one and private? That will depend on their personality profile and their preferences. Make sure you're doing it the right way, because that will get you brownie points. Doing it the wrong way could push them away. So I have a whole nother webinar on DISC. If you're interested in DISC, just put DISC in the chat box and we can have a chat afterwards. But getting it personal, really important. Are you going to celebrate them internally, or is there something to celebrate externally on your company LinkedIn page, on your Facebook page? Are we celebrating an individual's achievement, or is it a team achievement? And be very deliberate. If you celebrate an individual, which is actually part of a team effort, that again is a negative experience for the employee. So you need to get it right, be very conscious. Also decide, are you celebrating effort or outcome? Because they can be very different. Somebody can put in a massive effort, but it actually doesn't achieve the end result. There might be great learnings from it, but we didn't achieve the end result. Or is it the outcome that is really important? This will depend on the culture. So make sure you've got that defined in your culture. So you know how to celebrate and recognize. So again, you can be consistent. Are you celebrating the how, the values, the way in which people have gone about that work? Or again, the result, the actual what was achieved? If you focus entirely on the what, you can end up recognizing people who've trampled over others on their way to get there, and there's a kind of tale of destruction in their wake. So that you might want to make sure there's a kind of balance there. And how are you going to recognize and reward? Because it doesn't need to be high cost. You know, at the low cost token end, which can be very, very meaningful, it could be a thank you, a handwritten thank you card from your manager. Who's had one of those ever? How meaningful is that? It could be one of the most meaningful thank yous I've ever had in my career was actually a Kit Kat bar. I am a chocoholic, so they knew me that I was a Kit Kat chocoholic, and on it was a post-it note handwritten by my manager. You know, thanks for everything today. I know it's been tough. And I got back to my desk at about 7 o'clock in the evening. Everyone else had gone in the department, and that was waiting for me. I was nearly in tears. It was so meaningful. Or you can have higher perceived value. You might be giving a day off. You might give holiday vouchers. It could be something very different. Or somewhere in between. But think about, how are you going to do this? You know, how many of you have actually got a process or a policy or a desired way of doing this, or is this just very ad hoc? If it's ad hoc, it probably doesn't happen enough. And people love feeling recognized, and that will keep them tied into you. So what examples have we got? I thought we could share a few at this point. Do type away in, what do you do to recognize your employees? So type yours and then have a good look at what anybody else is doing and see if you can borrow some ideas. Are we back on Menti?
We've had a comment through regular one-to-ones. That's on the chat box. Just giving everyone some time to jump onto Menti.
Jump onto Menti. Holiday trip, yeah, those are good. Award cash, great, yep. Spa day. Team meals. Oh, lightning strikes, haven't heard that phraseology. Thank you for explaining that's a one-off payment. Yep. Day off. I love the things that are a meal, a spa day, day off, because it's something they're going to do, they're going to have to do. Sometimes cash can just get sort of lost in the housekeeping, as it were. Oh, earning commission from sales that they book personal shopping. Excellent. Hampers, gift vouchers. Again, gift vouchers you tend to spend on something for you. So that is more treat-like, I think, potentially, than cash. Flowers, yeah, flowers, great. And why isn't it scrolling? Here we go. Oh, Achievers Club holiday, bottle of champagne, personalized cookie for the first win, great. I once worked somewhere, there was a really comfy chair. There was like a deluxe office chair, and the star of the month got the really nice chair to sit on for the month. So A, it was comfortable for them, and B, it was just like a visible recognition that everybody that month knew, oh, you got star of the month last month. That was a great one. Gift boxes, vouchers, big ups, yeah. Handwritten cards, honestly, who's kept, if you've got a handwritten card, who's kept it? I bet there's a stat, you know, we keep those for quite a long time. They don't go straight in the recycle bin at all. Yeah, thank you card in the post, excellent. Lots of things. So yeah, let's get creative, because keeping these going, this is going to really help your retention. So I'm conscious of time, so I'm going to move us on. So people are wanting, as we move up that sort of Maslow hierarchy of needs, we want progression. So are your team aware of how they could develop their career within your organization? Now, some of you will have some great formal processes, and you've got quite a scale of function and roles that people can move through. Some of you might be in much smaller organizations. You're going, Helen, really? There's 6 of us in here. But there can still be ways of developing through. it just might be slower. It might be actually they can take on additional responsibilities. So that's why I put role versus responsibilities. To progress, you don't have to do a whole different job. You could maybe just pick up one extra responsibility. Even better if there's someone you can get rid of one too, so we can't ultimately overload, because we know that's another trigger for people to leave. But just giving them some different developmental responsibilities will help that sense of progression. And as you give them more of these responsibilities, they can have salary progression without having to do a whole different job. But in order to do this, you need to know what are their preferences. How do they want to develop? How do they want to progress? Because not everybody wants to progress upwards. Some people want to progress laterally and build broader skill sets. So we can't be assuming what these might be. These are great conversations to have, back to communication. Are you having really good conversations? And even in corporate organizations, I've had people resign because they just didn't understand how their career could move around. And sat down and explained it, you know, bad on us for not having had that done properly in the first place. And they're like, oh my goodness, I hadn't realized. And you know, some of us are thinking, golly, we thought that was quite obvious, but it isn't always. Just because you've known it and worked it and you've seen it, it's not always visible to others. So really help them see those career paths. We want to make sure you are empowering your team. By this, I mean, we don't need the micromanagement. If I put on a string type thing, micromanaging is the quickest way to push someone away from your organization. Once there's a clear strategy, people know where the business is going, they know the scope of their role, they've got the skills to do it, then they can be delegated to with a clear outcome required and a time frame, and then they can get on and do that on their own. Empowering people is a key way to retain, and in the opposite of micromanaging is a key way to lose people quickly. But we do need to delegate, not abdicate. What do I mean by abdicate? It's just like chuck it over the fence. They might not have the skills, they haven't got the context, and lo and behold, it doesn't fly. Not everybody is at the point where they're ready to be empowered and to work on their own, but we need to help them get to that position. If you are leading a group of people who are doing a job that you personally have done before, that can be one of the most difficult things, is to let go and allow them to do it without micromanaging them. So if that's you, just be really conscious. If you've done the job yourself, it is far more difficult to stop that micromanagement happening. And then personal growth. So people want to develop in their jobs, but they also want to grow personally from them, that sense of always being bigger and better and moving forwards. So to support them in this, you need to know their aspirations. Have you had a really honest, open conversation with someone about where do they want to go? How do they see themselves developing and growing? Have they got a personal development plan that helps take them there? Now, some personal development plans are more focused on bringing up skills that aren't quite at the level needed. But I'd say that's a sort of business benefit. If we're talking about retaining people, we also need to have them moving forwards development plans. Development plans, combination 70-20-10 is my favorite ratio. What's that about? 70% on the job, 20% self-directed. That might be reading, videos, YouTubes, etc. 10% formal learning. So if money's tight, and I know there's a lot of pressures on budgets at the moment, you've got 90% available without having to spend any money. So there's no reason why people can't have a really rich personal development plan and be given those stretch opportunities. So do your team have meaningful personal growth plans that are aligned with their aspirations? Question. And then my bonus point, because I was talking about 7 essentials, this is the bonus point. Is there something unique about your organization, you as an employer, that you can offer? Is there a wow factor? Is there a really different thing because of what you do that you can offer or you've created? Have you got amazing technology that just is very attractive to those kind of people? I just saw actually Zopa have just announced they're doing 120 days a year. Their team can work from anywhere abroad. That's pretty different. I'd say that's probably approaching a wow factor. Other things, I mean, even things like, I presume they still do it, I don't know, John Lewis used to give 25% family discount. I tell you, that's a way to get people to stay because their family want them to stay. When my sons were there for their Saturday jobs, I'm like, you stay there, I'm enjoying my 25% discount. Have you got amazing sales intensive trips abroad? We had one of those earlier. So is there something that is just going to stand out from the crowd that would really help as well? So we've had a quick trip through 7 different factors there with our bonus 8, and we're about to hit 1 o'clock. So I love this quote by Karen Brady. She knows a thing or two. 3 types of people in business: those who make things happen, those who watch things happen, and those who wondered what happened. And I think that's very relevant for our topic today. I'm hoping you're here on the webinar, not just to watch things happen, but to make things happen. And if you're just going to wonder what happened, that will happen when the team exit left, because we haven't focused on retention. So to wrap up, on your mentees, please pick this up, or if you've given up with mentee, put it in the chat box. Which 3 of our factors that we've covered today are most urgent for you to focus on? Which ones do you need to give some more attention to now it's just been highlighted? Because by just identifying what those 3 are now, it's going to trigger your brain to remember it. You are far more likely to do something if you actually think, which the 3 I need to focus on. Otherwise, this will have been a poor investment of your lunch hour. So let's get value for your time and decide what are you going to focus on. So 5 votes in there, great. 6, communication is leading the way, followed by recognition. Great. And you know what? Those 2 things don't even have to cost anything. So keep those coming in. I am conscious of time. Please put in the chat box, I have got an audit, a self-audit for you to do on your retention, how strong you are on these factors. So if you'd like that, Simon, can you just pop that in the chat box? There is a link. If you just click on the link, we will send you, it will automatically come to you, our retention self-audit. So please, yeah, Simon, let me know when that's in there. Do just click on it now, get the browser open, and then it's probably going to take you 10 minutes to, brilliant, it's probably just going to take you 10 minutes to fill out, because that will help you think about, even within those 7 areas, which ones should I really focus on? So it's going to help you hone down where to focus. So thank you. Communication has 1, followed by recognition and progression. So to wrap up, I've actually run out of time for questions. If you've got a question, best thing is fire it over to my email or give me a call. Would love to help you. If you're interested in discs so you can better make your retention, your celebrations, etc., suit the individual, give me a call. If you're curious about the Gallup 12 from engagement point of view, drop a note and do take that retention assessment. I wish you every success in hanging on to your precious resources. Have a great afternoon.